Is this are we going?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Midas Letter Live. My name is Mark Latimer. This is Ed Milewski. We're here in the Exchange Tower. So happy to be here. October 1st.
Okay, what would you do if the fire drill was now?
Oh man, this fire drill today.
It was like both sides of the street, like the BMO Bank, everything.
They should have just told people to come in after the fire drill.
They should have said, you know what, we're going to have a fire drill, but then how would you have experienced what a fire drill was like?
Well, you just don't come in that day.
Okay.
So big
Pretty
show.
simple. Pretty simple.
Speaking of fires,
You know what? Big number came out at 10 o'clock today. A manufacturing number.
yeah,
I'm not a manufacturer, so but suffice to say, the
you're
number.
not a manufacturer.
I'm not a manufacturer. I'm a fabricator. Anyway, at the end of the day, the market, the number came out with, it was a below 50 number, below 50 being contracting economy,
Right.
above 50. So we've had two of these now below.
Pretty much the end of the world.
Gold jumped $20 on the news in a very short period of time. The S&P is looking very problematic here, looking like it's going to breach some
Right.
important support levels. That hasn't happened yet. So anyway, we're going to talk about all this throughout the show. And interest rates drop precipitously. As soon as the things are looking bad, it's hard to raise. You know, how are you going to raise rates in a world that's contracting?
If I had the answer, I'd be.
And I'm not looking for the answer. I'm looking. These are rhetorical questions.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Well, we've got a big show today. Why don't we pull up who is joining us?
Yeah.
We're going to be doing the news, as we do daily,
Yeah.
with Laura McCallum. We've got Peter Miller with SLANG Worldwide.
SLANG Worldwide, yeah.
And Emma Andrews joins us from BevCanna.
Okay. The marijuana sector is certainly taking on a little water here, wouldn't you say? Like, in other words,
All red lights. Red lights
I mean,
across the
this
board.
is, you know, and I know I'm not saying that. Look, we've said all along, they legalize marijuana, and maybe the news is out, it's legal, and now we get to see quarterly reports, and the quarterly reports aren't living up to the valuations that were given to the group. So, more red. They're not all red, but if you've got, if there's any doubt about this company's ability to start generating cash, you know, it's getting knocked down, and then it's going to be more difficult to raise money. Or if the stock is down and you need to raise money, you got to do it at lower prices. Mm-hmm. And I noticed lately companies aren't issuing equity or issuing shares. They're raising debt. We saw it with WeedMD. I saw a company yesterday do a bond deal. Anyway, we'll look at some charts. We'll look at some charts later.
Well, the interesting thing is that in maybe before the end of the year, we'll see some maybe change in regulation for edibles, which might change the conversation for some of these companies.
Yeah, because a lot of these companies can't sell product right now, right?
Right. They're limited.
They're limited.
So,
not so much in the U.S. states, but certainly. Yeah,
certainly here.
Yeah, I don't know if you can't. If you have a beverage right now in Canada that's infused with cannabis, you can't sell it, can you?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I shouldn't go look for this stuff.
Well, I'm sure they've got some samples in those warehouses. But,
can I tell you a little anecdotal?
You can. Be my guest.
On the weekend, thought it would be a good idea to go to a dispensary here on one of the streets not far from here, near. Let's just say it was near where they play baseball.
Okay. And this is illegal.
This is illegal.
Oh, okay.
So what they did was they closed the store, and the store, which is closed, and then they put up this wall, a temporary wall, and And right behind the wall, instead of going into the store, you just went in behind the wall. I'm not kidding you. The street was lined up with 20, 25, 30 people. And all you did was, they took your name, they took your order, and you went behind the thing, gave them a little cash, and you bought it. That's not a legal dispensary. I'm not going to say where it is because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, because I was in there looking for I bought a shatter bar.
A shatter bar?
You know what a shatter bar is?
I have an idea.
Yeah. Did
it do its job?
Oh yeah. It's they have potential.
Well, I was at a similar type of establishment, and there's guys right outside the place with trunks open selling their own gear.
It's very the hubris, if you will. Like they've got balls. Like, hey, it's illegal, but not. I don't care if it's illegal. I'm selling it.
Which is more illegal? The illegal place selling it in where they're paying rent, or the guy with his trunk open?
Yeah. Well, they closed down where I was. The building was there where they were selling it. They closed that down, so they said, okay, we'll open up outside. Good thing it wasn't raining.
And the illegal place was taking some customer data, like a cell phone number, and giving you incentives for points to come back. They're getting organized.
Almost like a Tim Hortons loyalty card or something.
Just like that. I was reading that Ontario Cannabis, they are getting in a little bit of trouble for collecting customer data and then reselling it. Because on the website...
OCS?
Yeah.
So the Ontario Cannabis Store...
that says we will not share your data with anyone is getting slapped on the wrist for just that.
Gee, this is a call for Jesus.
Jesus.
Okay, well, there you go. So the world's still doing its thing. I'm very interested to see. We're going to put, we'll do the news.
Sure.
And
Why don't we do that?
And then we'll go and look at the S&P or something like that.
Sounds like a plan.
Here's what's making cannabis headlines this Tuesday, October 1st, 2019. 48 North Cannabis announced its financial results for the fourth quarter of 2019. Year-end net revenue was $4.8 million. Net loss was $8.1 million, or 7 cents per share. Cash and cash equivalents at end of period was $52.7 million. Fire and Flower Holdings announced its financial and operational results for the 13 weeks ended August 3rd, 2019. The company generated revenue of $11.1 million. The company recorded a net comprehensive loss of $6.5 million, or a net loss per share of 6 cents for the 13 weeks. BEV Inc. reported its financial results for its first quarter of 2019. Q1 total revenue was $800K. Net loss was $1.5 million. Cash and cash equivalents at the end of the period was $366K. High Tide announced its Q3 2019 financial results. Q3 net revenue was $8.3 million. Net loss was $3.7 million, or 2 cents per share. Cash and cash equivalents at end of the period was $2.5 million. MYM Nutraceuticals reported its Q4 2019 financial result. Year-end total revenue was nil. Net loss was $18.6 million, or 14 cents per share. Cash and cash equivalents at end of the period was $2.3 million. World Class Extractions reported its financial and operating results for its first quarter ended July 31st, 2019. Revenue for the quarter was $167,802. The net loss and comprehensive loss for the 3 months ended July 31st, 2019 was $4.22 million. The company had cash at July 31st, 2019 of $13.9 million. Australis Capital has been granted a special use permit by the City of North Las Vegas for the Tropical Parkway land acquired in the Green Therapeutics acquisition. This special use permit for cultivation and production of cannabis products will enable AUSA to transfer and consolidate the licenses currently held at various locations in the jurisdiction of the Tropical Parkway location. This preparation precedes the greenhouse construction proposed for AUSA's flagship cultivation and manufacturing location in North Las Vegas. CBDMD has become the official CBD partner of the Joe Rogan Experience, Armchair Expert with Dak Shepard, and Your Mom's House with Tom Segura and Christina Pazitsky. The 3 podcasts are housed under the Public Media Marketing Podcast Network. Canada House Wellness Group announced its wholly owned subsidiary, ABBA Medix Corp. ABBA Medix Corp commenced sale of its ABBA branded cannabis flower. ABBA produces handcrafted, premium quality, medical grade cannabis for patients seeking safe solutions for the complex to common health and wellness needs. Harborside Inc. announced the unveiling of Dutch Venlo Greenhouse at its Harborside Farms growing facility in Salinas, California. The project will grow premium flower varieties for the Harborside dispensaries and third-party brands at wholesale. Harborside began cultivation in the Venlo greenhouse this week and anticipates increasing annual yields by approximately 10,000 pounds. MediPharm Labs has successfully completed its second set of export shipments of medical cannabis concentrate to Australia. This export was 137% greater in volume compared to its first export into Australia in June 2019. Prior to the shipment, the Australian government's Office of Drug Control section issued a second set of import permits. Sundial Growers announced that a group of directors and executive officers, including Chief Executive Officer Torsten Koenslin, have entered into a voluntary lockup agreement with respect to the common shares of Sundial they own. The lockup covers approximately 26 million, or about 25% of the total issued outstanding common shares. And that's your news for today. To keep up to date with all things cannabis, visit the Cannabis Daily on MidasLetter.com.
Yeah, you might want to bring that up.
Yeah.
Is that public information?
It is.
I wouldn't want Mike to come out and thump you out. Of course, he's a little older now, maybe not as fast.
So we're just chatting here about Mike Tyson, everyone's favorite, well, maybe not everyone's favorite, but he's got quite the career change, and now he's got a 40-acre ranch that he's turning into a glamping site for luxury camping, that you could go there and smoke one of 9 different strains of Mike Tyson's marijuana. Do you enjoy that? That'd be a nice, nice
you know
trip?
what? I used to watch, like when Tyson came on,
Yeah.
and he was the youngest heavyweight, I think, of all time, or certainly right up there. I think he was 19 years old. He used to come in, and he looked so awesome, and he used just to wear this cutout sort of burlap sack, and he just looked like I wouldn't get in the ring if you know, for $10 million. The guy just looked crazy ferocious.
Yeah, you could see it in his eyes.
Oh, he
that,
was killer. Like, he was, you know. Anyway, yeah, I always liked him. I thought he was a.
He apparently he's got a drink too called Dwink.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you know what?
All the celebrities are trying to get a piece. Can't blame them.
Where's his farm? Is it in Nevada or is it in California?
Somewhere in California.
Okay.
We could probably use the internet to look it up if we wanted to. The other thing that was interesting in the news there was Joe Rogan. He's being sponsored by Australis Capital.
Okay.
He's got a pretty popular show.
Yeah.
Can't hurt to. Everyone's looking for their celebrity for marijuana.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so the farm there.
Waco, Texas.
Waco.
That's where that's where that guy had that standoff. That was I can't even remember the guy's name, but that was in Waco, Texas, and there was a big standoff with the armed guard. Anyway, it was this was a long time ago. Anyway.
Well, we've chatted a lot. You want to look at
yeah, I want to look at the S&P. The S&P,
sure.
I think is and we'll talk about this here. Here we are down. You're down 31 points today. Look at that big red candle. And the question is.
So many questions. What's the question?
Well, you know, again, and I don't mean to be a broken record here, but
It's not possible.
you know, we've had that was August. This is September. Now we're starting October. But you know, that I don't know if it's too early to. We couldn't get through the highs here. Mm-hmm. We tried here. We failed. Now we're starting to, if we draw a line across, this red candle at the end is starting to breach. Not you know, it hasn't yet, but it's so damn close.
Right.
Touching this area in August, which was a consolidation period, and set us up for this move in here. And we had Dan the Man say, as long as we've broken out, let's just see if the Bulls can defend their position, or the Bears, whatever. Well, it looks like after today's manufacturing.
Is there a wick on the bottom of that candle there?
Which one?
That red one at the end there.
This one?
Yeah.
There's a low one, so it's rallied back. which is what you want to see.
Right.
But if there's no rally back and we breach this level here, it can't be good. Just saying.
Just saying. Okay, so that's the S&P.
So that's a big thing. And coincidentally, look where these moving average lines are. Like we got a 50-day, which is in red, and we got the 100-day. Oh, sorry, that's a 20. It's a 50 and a 20. In any event, looks like there's a lot, and we keep getting bad news about this, bad news about this. So what happened? And by the way, the market was up this morning until that manufacturing number came out. So if we look at a 1 minute chart, a 1 day chart, look, market was up here. Second here. The manufacturing numbers came out and we just slid precipitously down into here. We've rallied a bit, but that's not suggestive of a turn. And when this happened, gold took off like a shot after yesterday's 30-day drop.
Right.
It was up $20, $21. So it came, most of it got back. Mm-hmm. And interest rates, we saw interest rates, they were up again this morning. Market moving along, everything's fine. Yeah. And bad data, BD. We had a case of BD, not the other kind of D. I won't get into that.
Fair enough.
Okay. Bad data. Okay, so let's just take a look at gold while we're at it, just to complete the trifecta here. Trifecta of...
I'm going to pull up the YouTube chat, see what's happening, see who we have with us. And for those who don't know, we have a YouTube chat room going every day. You can get to it through MidasLetter.com or just look us up on YouTube, and yeah, you can ask questions. We've got Ed here.
Yeah.
He can pull up a chart for you.
Yeah, I can
tell you what he thinks. Can make a little speculation, maybe help you make a few bucks.
So we saw gold just quickly. That's where it was. The data came out immediately. Gold rallied as the markets fell. So it's tied in. There's definitely a connection here between interest rates
on YouTube and
excuse me? No. So gold up today, markets down, interest rates down. Okay?
Fair enough.
And the marijuana sector, it's like nobody cares. But maybe we're getting overdone.
Well, you got to assume that a lot of people are holding short positions. So they're riding that down. Maybe if you had some foresight, you could have been there from the beginning. But it's taken a long turn. And at the earliest indicator, I think people are going to start. We're looking for a bottom, right?
We're looking for, and James keeps talking about a catalyst, right? And you mentioned it just before we got on here.
Yeah, edibles.
Like,
could be edibles.
Could be edibles. It could be legalization throughout the United States.
That's the big one.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, what's the edibles thing going to do? People just going to start eating a lot of chocolate and.
Yeah, then they gotta go see your trainer.
Yeah, that's a good idea. The protein specific. A lot of people like to smoke and work out, or have a little.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, that's really popular.
Really?
Pre-post, you name it.
Wow.
You can get your whey protein and your. I don't know which company's doing that.
I just see T-God going by at $1.90, down 11 cents, or down 13 cents. I mean. Tilray, 24 and a quarter down. It's getting ugly, and as I see more and more red, I got to think we're getting close to a bounce.
There's someone wanting to look up VFF.
Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
Someone's also wondering if Trump's Twitter account can be hacked. That might help marijuana stocks. I don't know.
Okay, so
VFF.
Yeah, there we got a 3-month chart, and obviously, look at this. House of Pain. I don't want to steal James Kramer's jokes. That was the peak, through a nice, even though it opened, closed lower, so we had the opposite of that bull candle, the Hero Mizo or
bearish Marabuzzo.
There, that's it right
candle.
there. And then look at, never got back, all the way down to here, had a bounce. Now we're down to here, but this tail yesterday, and remember, last month, yesterday was the end of a quarter. A lot of this shit gets adjusted, and they're looking to reallocate to different sectors,
so
all these things. So it would make sense that they may just start to step into the marijuana, because a lot of guys were getting out. So smart money's thinking, the sellers are gone.
Maybe finish the year with a strong quarter by driving marijuana back up.
I'm going to take a shot here at some point.
You think it's still going to be bearish for a little while? But historically, what's October like? You've seen a few Octobers.
There's been some shit
few more
months.
Octobers than
I've seen a few Octobers. I've seen more Octobers than you have, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And there's October,
September's historically.
September and October are your two worst months. I think,
Okay.
and August is sort of in there too. And then you got tax loss selling in Canada, or well, actually anywhere, right up until the end of the year. You get rid of your losers. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to comment. We're talking about things as they happen, and tomorrow, as this finishes today, we'll look at things again tomorrow, and we'll look for new clues.
Okay.
Okay. So it's an evolving. It's not static. There's motion here.
So where's the big volume happening right now?
Big volume? You mean in the markets?
Yeah.
Well, I think there's some big volume. Like I was at the HMMJ. It looked like it was getting some pretty good action here the last few days.
Yeah, you want to pull that one up?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I do. You do. We do. How about voodoo? Okay, so we were looking at, again, remind me, HMMJ. Look at this, folks. I got to tell you, this is probably very close to what we just saw with Village Farms. Look at this. We got a green candle here. Here, let me just put this up.
But that volume's looking nice.
Well, it's a lot of volume, but is that selling or buying? As long as it's
Looks like
dropping,
it's
I guess it's selling. Yeah. Look at this. There's the peak, similar to what we saw with Village. A drop. Rally, but not that rally. And now we've got the Bollingers pointing south, and then look at this thing, riding the band right down here like this, where you got all these candles, and you got big volume buildup. Tomorrow morning, if it's down, I think that'd be a good time to step in. So we'll see.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment of what's happening, and if it's up.
Yeah, again, this is all technical stuff. Like today, the volume on the HMMJ is the biggest volume we've had. If you look, it's slightly higher than yesterday. In these last 5 days, 6 days, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Pretty well all greater volume than any other time on this 3-month chart.
Okay, I'm just looking at the chat room here, and there's Joseph who'd like us to look at Halo.
Let's look at Halo. Oh, I like it when things work. Well, it's been rough for Halo, as it's been for the sector.
Yeah.
But I do think there's some encouraging signs here of a bottom. Now there was the biggest volume day in this 3-month period, and that's sort of a doji, okay? The wick and the candle look about the same. The body's maybe a little bit thick, but you know what? We're poets. We're not mathematicians. We're looking to be approximately right.
There's a special name for that candle, but it's
a type of doji, correct?
Yeah, it's a type of doji.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, we've rallied. Now we've come down, but we're holding the level. And one of our followers, Deanna House, whom I chat with occasionally, she was at one of our functions recently.
Your pen pal?
you know, she's saying, you know, they've got some good things happening. And we know that they've got some good things happening, and the revenue numbers are starting to ramp up.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to save your marijuana company business, transactions, and putting some money in the bottom line.
So you got to do your homework. You got to know where the money's coming from.
You know what? I don't want to knock the company we just reported the results, but they did you know, 180,000 in revenue. They lost 4 million. One of the extraction companies. They have 13 million in cash, but you're doing 180,000 and you're losing 4 million. It's no wonder the stock's at 6.5 cents, right? And sure, if they can start making money and doing what they have to do, that problem resolved. But if they run out of money before, they've got to raise money. How are they going to raise money without serious dilution? Because you have to issue you can't issue at prices above the market. You've got to do it in the context of the market. It'll be interesting to see as companies start running out of money, what happens.
Let's look at maybe one more, and then
we'll do an interview.
Run something else.
Okay.
How about ACB? Visual adrenaline is pumped to have you take a look at ACB.
ACB. Okay, here we go. Let's see what's happened here in the last 3 months. I like using 3 months because these are daily. If you get too long a period, but again, top left, bottom right, and after this sort of relief rally, and we got through the band here, the Bollinger Band, peaked out, and then sold off quickly the next day, and we've been. You know, you could have easily said, well, you know, look, we've gone through the band there, a bit of sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, but I'll tell you, this is brutal. Because we've seen the stock now go from 870-ish, 850, 860, 870. What are we at, 550? Now, this is all in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 days. So $3 on 850 is like 35%, 37%. These are major haircuts. If you've got hair left after this, it's because you haven't pulled it out.
Well, we've been looking at a lot of these charts, and they're starting to look pretty similar. I know we were talking earlier about using maybe an ETF if you want to ride a wave.
If you want to step in,
yeah,
like, and that's a good point, okay? If you want to step in and you want to pick one stock and you think there's going to be a dead cat bounce or a bounce of some significance, the ETF is a great way to do it because God forbid you buy the one stock that announces tomorrow they're going under, which is not going to happen. I'm just saying, but it could happen.
People have been,
you know, I've done it where you buy the one stock that's not acting well because you think, well, it's the cheapest stock, but there's a reason it's not acting well because tomorrow they're going to announce. The auditors say we've fudged the numbers. What? So you know, the ETF, you're spread out over a lot. It's going to move like the group, maybe not as volatile, but if you're right, you still make money.
It's a good point.
Yeah. So thanks for bringing that up.
Hey, you're welcome. Why don't we take a look at an interview with?
And by
Peter
the way,
Miller.
the volume on the ACB looks to be the biggest today.
Okay. Before we do that,
yeah. So just wanted to add that on the end. So
sure.
Things are setting up for a bounce.
Some good volume there. Okay, let's take a look at a conversation with James and Peter Miller with SLANG Worldwide.
If you like the show, you'll love our website. Visit us at www.midasletter.com for interviews with key CEOs, cannabis news, and to subscribe to our newsletter. Peter Miller joins me now. He's the CEO of SLANG Worldwide. Peter, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Peter, let's start quickly with your point of origin in the whole cannabis industry. When did you get involved? How did you get involved?
Man, that's almost 7 years ago. I met somebody who was a home grower under the old system. It sounded very interesting, but didn't sound very organized. Discovered that Health Canada was creating this more organized, federally legal commercial program. Thought about the things that might make me capable of getting one of the early licenses, which included a family history in an agricultural area, small town called Creemore, where I thought we could build something pretty special. And then my competitive advantage beyond that was just that I knew nothing about cannabis, and I knew nobody in cannabis, and as such, I had no record or anything that would make the government nervous in terms of licensing me. So fast forward to developing that facility, getting it licensed, coming together with another group of guys to form Metrum Health Corp, growing that business for the next few years, ultimately exiting to Canopy. That first few years was my boot camp in the space.
Oh, so you were with Metrum as well?
Correct, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, that's fascinating. So fast forward to today, tell me about the footprint of SLANG worldwide.
So today, SLANG Worldwide is across 13 states, Canada, we have exposure in Central America, Europe, and the whole concept is that our portfolio of branded products will be sold wherever those products can legally be sold. We're not retailers. That avoids any channel conflict, meaning that when you own a lot of retail and you also have brands, other retailers don't tend to want to carry your brands because they see you as competitive.
Sure.
So we're not retailers, but we touch pretty much every other part of the supply chain. We don't own anything, we don't own everything.
Right.
We own a lot of stuff.
Right.
But we don't think that you need to own everything to operate within a supply chain to get your finished goods to the cash register.
Okay, and recently Bruce Linton made an investment into your company. What's the significance that can be read into that for investors in SLANG?
Well, I think it's a huge vote of confidence in what we're doing. Bruce had hundreds of opportunities and options, and he focused on a few. So as an investor in SLANG, there's great alignment of interests for him to offer all the insights he has into the space, which he's developed over many years, and to open the door to some of his contacts where he thinks it's appropriate, at which point it's really up to us to make something of that. So we don't expect him, nor should anyone expect him, to move mountains and make it all happen for them. But his insights on the space, his views on the trends, and just his experience, anyone who's written a significant check into the space, he's probably met face to face.
Right. Okay, so what is SLANG's biggest sort of target in this whole cannabis space? I mean, you're everywhere in the world, you're vertically integrated across multiple segments of the market. Where is the focus?
Well, we're focused on mature and maturing markets where cannabis is readily available to adults, meaning we avoid the really early stage limited license markets, knowing that inevitably they become more developed, more mature markets that start looking much more consistent. So in Colorado, that would be our biggest market. That's a $1.6 billion US per year market. And you've seen trends evolve over the period of legalization from some element of vertical integration being mandatory to people focusing on different parts of the supply chain there. And in that market, we have a variety of products across edibles, vape, concentrate, and we're moving into flower in a really exciting way.
Okay, so there are over 480,000 acres under cultivation for hemp in the United States alone. Call it $1,000 or 1,000 pounds of feedstock per acre, just for rough sort of back a napkin. 16 million pounds of CBD if you average 5% CBD. Do you think that the explosion of outdoor hemp as a source of CBD is going to undermine the price and viability of that market by extension?
I think it absolutely could. I think the potential overproduction of cultivation capacity generally is having kind of whipsaw effects on a lot of groups, not just hemp, but to talk about hemp specifically, because you brought it up, there is a huge, as you identified, amount of acreage under cultivation, but even on the processing side, I heard from a person that was the plant manager of one of the US's largest coffee decaffeination facilities, and that facility was sold to a hemp processor. Now we're talking tens of thousands of pounds per run that they could extract crude resin out of. So I think ultimately that lends itself to our business model, where we're not doing that all ourselves. We will buy ingredients, we'll formulate them into a finished good under our brands, and we'll wholesale them to retailers, which is how CPG works. You have your farmers selling to a Cargill type aggregator of raw material, using brokers along the way. That product will be acquired by a CPG company that will turn that into a finished good. And then those finished goods will be wholesaled to retail and grocery, big box, whatever the case may be. So I think that as the supply chain sorts itself out and finds an equilibrium, we'll remain nimble and agile because we don't have the burden of the wild overhead and huge commodity exposure to just continue to grow our business responsibly and scalably.
Great. What does your financial profile look like at this point in terms of revenue versus earnings?
Sure. So last quarter, we announced revenue of just over $7 million. Pro forma, however, the acquisitions that we've discussed and are all contemplated, it was in the low 20s. And we lost a few $1 million on an adjusted basis in the process. But our business model, as I mentioned along the supply chain, doesn't require the same capital that the fully integrated groups require, or folks that need to open a lot of stores or build out a lot of infrastructure. So we're in a fortunate position that as the market indicates what it's willing or not willing to do at any given time, i.e. if equity dries up, we can weather the storm better than most.
Fantastic. When do you see the opportunity in the U.S. opening up on a national basis?
That's really tricky because different people have different views on how that would happen. Seeing SAFE move through Congress was really encouraging, especially because I believe half the voting Republicans were in favor. So that's the most bipartisan support of anything we've seen in a long time. And hopefully that momentum's carried through the Senate, which will make the banks more comfortable. Hopefully the exchanges become more comfortable, which could create liquidity, just generally speaking. Something like the States Act would be a huge bit of momentum as well. But the ballot initiatives that happen on a state-by-state basis at every general and midterm election is really where the momentum has taken place in the past. And seeing new states come online through that process ultimately creates a situation where the vast majority of states have some sort of legal framework, and then it becomes much easier politically and in every way for the federal government to then say, you know, this is how we feel about cannabis now that the people have spoken on a state-by-state basis.
Sure. Where do you see the biggest opportunity for growth in a product category across the whole cannabis industry?
It's tricky because there's not going to be, I don't think, a wild new invention that totally makes people rethink cannabis. So when you look at the data and you see dry flower, whether that's bud or pre-rolls, being the dominant part of cannabis as a sector, and then below that is vape, concentrates, edibles. When you break down each of those pieces, even within edibles, you have gummies near the top, you have the newer things like beverage near the bottom, and within flower you're starting to see some segmentation. So I think the biggest opportunity is the biggest part of the market, and that opportunity is for somebody to come in not with a totally new invention, but just delivering value, delivering on their brand promise, whether that promise is on price or whether it's based on quality. And I think there's just going to be some intense competition where you're duking it out just on fundamental, regular blocking and tackling type initiatives.
Yeah, that's a good point. So price versus quality. I think it was John Fowler who said, nobody walks into a room and says, who's got the cheap stuff? It's always about who's got the best stuff, which is one of my favorite comments ever. That being said, there is clear evidence across the consuming universe, especially as we're able to see it in the Canadian system, that price sensitivity is quite the consideration for a lot of consumers, and in fact, the cheap stuff tends to win, but for a small segment of sort of quality, more quality forward connoisseur. What portion of the audience do you think is sort of quality oriented above price orientation?
It's definitely the minority. but it's aspirational within a portfolio to have something like that people can buy occasionally. One of the things that cannabis, one of the pricing dynamics that's very different than alcohol, which we sometimes get compared to, is that within wine, for example, you could have 4 orders of magnitude in terms of pricing that someone may purchase within their lifetime. So a $7 bottle, $70, $700, $7,000 for a very small part of the population on a very special occasion.
Right.
Whereas cannabis, if you're getting a few dollars more per gram, that would be very significant. So perhaps it's more craft beer when you look at a pricing analogy. In terms of what we see in the data, certainly the vast majority of sales are coming from that more value tier part of the market. And if you look to places like California, which a lot of people see as a trend-setting market, one of the most popular brands in the entire state is a brand called Old Pal. And their whole concept initially was that it was shareable. It wasn't, that it was bad. It was, lower canopy. And by managing your expectations really well, they created a positive consumer experience that may have been negative if they said, this is great product, and you open the bag and it's small buds and there's a few sticks and a few seeds, you'd be very angry. But if they come out and say, this isn't that good, but it's $15 eighth, nicely packaged, and you open it, and you're like, oh, that's better than not good. That's actually okay. And so I think there's an expectations management piece to that.
Right.
Kind of like, I think it was a Warren Buffett quote. If you tell someone they're going to the ballet and it's a rock concert, or you tell someone they're going to a rock concert and it's a ballet, they're going to be very angry.
Right.
But if you tell them what they're going to, and they go there and it is what they expected it to be, they'll be very happy.
Good
And
point.
I think that's going to happen with bud. Everyone wants to be premium. Everyone's saying they're premium. John's group is one of the few that actually are premium, but most dollars are being spent on lower priced items because the reality is the average person is hundreds of dollars away from covering their monthly overhead personally, and they can't always be buying the most expensive stuff.
Great. Peter, let's leave it there for now. Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you more or less delivered on
Here are the
what?
headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents,
And I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really...
Recreational cannabis is here.
It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits.
Welcome back. My guest today on the show is Emma Andrews, the Chief Commercialization Officer of BevCanna. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you for having me.
So, for those who don't know, can you start by telling us a bit about BevCanna?
Absolutely. So we are a BC-based company. We are a manufacturer and branding creator of infused beverage products. We have a bottling plant that's based out of Osoyoos, BC, which is technically in Bridesville. So if anyone's been to the BC interior, beautiful wine country, over 100 vineyards in the area. The bottling plant itself is actually on a site with cultivation as well. So in essence, we are a vertically integrated manufacturer for infused beverages. Why we're really pleased to work with them is their differentiated extraction technology validated through a patented process. So this allows us to use...
Talking about weed water. What is that?
That's what I think people are used to seeing in the market, especially if you've traveled down in the US and tried some of the early stage beverages that are appearing in the market down there. Essentially, when we say weed water, it's a beverage that's made with a crude extract. So there's still a lot of the impurities coming through in terms of the aroma or the odor of cannabis. This could be from chlorophyll or from lipids, so a less refined or purified input material. So the beverages that we will be launching here in Canada and subsequently in the US, you won't taste the weed. So you'll taste the flavor profiles, whether it's iced tea or a botanical infusion. So a lot more analogous to beverages you're used to consuming in the natural health product category or the functional beverage category.
And you have 2 brands, one focused on CBD and THC, is that right?
Yes, we announced 2 brands. We actually have a couple more in our coffers that we'll launch soon, but the first 2 we've launched are called Groove, which is an iced tea line. And this is a balanced cannabinoid profile of THC and CBD. Lower potency, so a very easy drinking line, great for new consumers. And then the second line we launched is called Anarchist Mountain Beverages, which is actually an ode to the site of the bottling plant in Osoyoos. It's on Anarchist Mountain. And that's a THC-dominant beverage line. And that one's really all about the Pacific Northwest. So flavor profiles you'd find throughout BC, very naturally inspired. And that's a sparkling spring water with artisanal flavors.
Well, sounds delicious. Can you talk a little bit about some of the infrastructure you have set up? I know you've made quite an investment.
So we actually are making use of an existing bottling facility, which gives us an early mover advantage in this space in Canada. It's a 40,000 square foot facility, world-class facility. The bottling line is capable up to 72 million units per year. That's with one shift, so there's obviously lots of untapped potential and room to grow. And one of the things we're really proud of is actually the spring water aquifer that's on site. So this will be used to infuse all of our beverages. That will be the base medium that we're using in our beverages. Pristine alkaline spring water, so absolutely crisp taste and a true testament to what BC has to offer.
Great. And let's talk a little bit about the team you've assembled. I read you have some excellent brand people that worked in similar space in, I guess, Mike's Hard and Vega. Is that right?
Yeah, so my own background is actually through Vega. I'm a nutritionist, so I started working at Vega in education and product development, really helping to make sure that the ingredients were sourced well, that the formulations had integrity behind them. Was part of the team that worked towards an acquisition by White Wave Foods. So it was a fantastic ride and learned so much through that process. I also got gratefully to work with Don Chisholm, who is our Chief Innovation Officer at BevCanna. So I worked with him at Vega for a rebrand through his firm called Dossier. So Don is now joined with myself at BevCanna, and his background is 30 years in the beverage industry, creating brands like Mike's Hard Lemonade. So we have experience in the nutraceutical category, natural health products, alcohol, and then the team at BevCanna also represents a brand portfolio called Trace Beverages. This is a non-infused product line that's bottled out of the existing facility in Osoyoos. And it's the first Health Canada natural health product in a functional beverage format. So again, a great depth of expertise in creating brands that resonate on a global scale. So I think we're very well poised to create these next generation of products for the infused landscape.
Well, sounds like an excellent leadership team. Can you talk a little bit about your revenues? Are you selling products yet? Are you waiting for the government to change the rules? Is that right?
Yeah, so we have a dual strategy in Canada and the US. So in Canada, we're obviously waiting for the regulations to take effect for the infused product category. Right. Not long now, 17 days as of today, October 1st. Once that takes effect, that's the first date that companies can submit their products to Health Canada for subsequent approval. So it won't be immediately we see these products in market. BevCanna is at the final evidence submission stage for our standard processing license as well. So one more milestone for us to achieve before we can submit our products to Health Canada for Canadian distribution. In the US, we've also been validating a water-soluble powder, actually, so a beverage drink mix that we'll be able to manufacture and distribute for the California market through regulated retail. And we anticipate launching a pilot run of this first brand we'll launch down in the US under this infused powder, and that will be in Q4 of 2019, so we will be in revenue this year.
As far as news coming, what are you most looking forward to?
We recently actually announced a agreement with Clearwater Can Grow, which will be our cultivator for our outdoor grow in Canada. And so we're very excited to get this site ready for cultivation next summer. It will be one of the largest outdoor cultivation sites in BC. And this really ties into our story of wanting to not only play up to the BC economy and BC cannabis economy specifically. We have such a strong reputation for cannabis cultivation in this province. But our head grower, Joey Bedard-Brunet, is a fantastic farmer. He's been growing cannabis and hemp for decades now. And so bringing his expertise onto the team, I think, really adds to our position in being able to not only cultivate infuse products and create brands as part of our vertical, but really speaks to just harnessing the beauty and the power of that region, which I think is a fantastic attribute for the brands themselves. And certainly would love to have you up there in the spring when it's nicer than the fall. It's raining out there right now, so maybe in the spring we'll have you up and you can check out the facility, check out the first crop as we plant.
Absolutely, that would be a lot of fun. Well, thanks so much, Emma. Really appreciate your time. That's all the time we have. But let's do this again sometime, and looking forward to watching BevCanna grow.
Thanks so much.
If you're enjoying the show, subscribe to Midas Letter on YouTube so you stay up to date on everything investment.
All right, BevCanna. Why don't we pull up the chart?
You know what? You took the words right out of my mouth.
BEV.
Oh, that's not BEV. Just a minute.
Okay.
I had it. My problem is I'm too.
Well, she
BEV
really knows her stuff. But a lot of it's dependent on when they change the rules. That's, I think, the big thing to watch with BevCanna. The government changes the rules.
And I'll say something here because in fact, now is this just a straight beverage company?
Straight beverage company.
So there's no revenues.
They do have. She was saying in the interview that they do have a powdered.
Okay.
Kind of like you add a little.
But they're not selling flour. They're not selling.
No.
They want to go into the.
They're in the beverage game.
Okay, so
that's their core business.
Okay, so look. So here's one where there is no revenue and it's moving sideways.
Yeah.
So in other words, the mystery's still here, and so as long as there's mystery, there's investors. But when you take the mystery out and you sort of know what's coming, like quarter after quarter of.
There's mystery, but no volume.
There's no volume, and so the others. Remember before we went legal?
Yeah.
That's where all these other companies were, and they were all much higher. So look, if they start to sell product in a reasonable fashion according to their plan, stock should perform okay. So now is this? I just want to check one thing here.
Sure, you take your time.
Yeah. Are we okay? That's a 3-month. Let's see. Okay, so we've been public for just over 3 months, and the opening day back in early July, we had a range of 95 down to 25.
Yeah.
And where are we right now? Well, we're a little bit less than halfway, but move up 10 cents and you'd be sort of in between.
But it's not taking the same shape as a lot of the other charts we're looking at.
No, because they don't know how to rate this yet.
Yeah. It's a little unpredictable.
We need some product out there.
So when I was chatting with her, she said that their solution is really to answer weed water.
When you say solution, you mean the actual liquid?
The problem.
The solution?
The solution. Oh man. So the problem is weed water. Normally, a lot of companies that, at least in the U.S., they're making these beverages that they got maybe a skunky taste to them.
Yeah.
It tastes a little bit like, I don't know, maybe they haven't been processed properly. So
it's still got a lot of the impurities.
So they've got two product lines, one focused on CBD and one THC. So just like you're drinking that water there, you'd get maybe a little high if you pick the right one.
And if I'm not drinking anything, then I get low.
You think that's going to be popular? Are people going to be drinking these cannabis drinks like they are alcohol?
You know what? It's amazing who you talk to. Like I know when I was on the wagon, I was drinking non-alcoholic beer.
Which wagon was that?
Yeah.
Is that a literal wagon?
I was wagging my tail. I don't know. When I sit around and drink beer, I don't know. There's something about alcohol, drinking booze, good old-fashioned booze.
Yeah, that's tried and true.
Yeah, but interesting. I mean,
there's a lot of people that said, edibles wasn't a thing for them. But then once they had one, maybe a little too much.
Well, the one thing about edibles has going for it is if you can't stand smoke, how in the hell are you going to smoke a joint? But with edibles, it's like having a little chocolate bar.
Well, hydration is a big thing. People need to have water to stay alive. So they've got that going for them. Sure. Let's take a look at a few more charts.
You know what? I want to talk about? We want to talk about. You know what? Because a lot of people.
Glad you reminded me.
A lot of young people are concerned about housing, living in big cities. They can't afford to live downtown Toronto. It's getting very expensive.
And there's a reason for that.
Well, you know, influx of international money. International money, like Hong Kong, for instance, isn't as expensive as it used to be. Look at all the shit that's happening in Hong Kong. Let's put up the chart. There we go. Okay, UBS Global Real Estate Bubble Index. So starting at the top, oh, it looks like Munich, Toronto, Hong Kong. Oh, Hong Kong is still up there.
But
Amsterdam. I was thinking of Singapore. Singapore's at the bottom.
It's more expensive to live in Toronto than it is to live in Hong Kong.
But look at Vancouver and Toronto are in the top 7, which are the ones that are really overvalued. Okay, then you get into the yellow.
Yeah.
Zurich, London, San Fran, relative. I guess, you know, there's a lot of different things because rents in London, England are a lot more expensive than they are in Toronto, and yet, I guess it's for what you're getting, right? I mean, there must be.
Maybe it's affordability in terms of the average dual income.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
So two people making good money in London will have easier time affording a place than.
Yeah, we were done with the chart there, young fella. Yeah. so Chicago. Look at Chicago, and there's been a lot of talk about crime in Chicago.
Yeah.
A lot of. In Toronto's just surpassed Chicago as the 3rd largest city in North America, or the 4th.
They just keep changing the border, I think.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean?
Well, like, so Chicago is undervalued.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can get a good deal in Chicago. Dubai, I'm surprised because there are so many of the world's, what do they call those things?
Towers?
Towers that build, you know, the things that sit down the middle of every building. So much going on in Dubai, and yet it's down at the bottom. It's affordable. It's affordable. Milan, well, that's not surprising. So you can sort of see, if you want Toronto or Vancouver, you're going to pay through the nose.
And this is, I think, one of the reasons why people smoke so much in Toronto is just to deal with the fact that everything costs so much.
They're so depressed.
Yeah.
You can't afford to drink anymore, so they smoke.
Come home from work and you're like, ah, shit.
There's some stories here about, you know, expensive apartments, etc.
I don't see it changing, though. We bring in so many people. We incentivize them with opportunities for education, competitive wages. So usually, even though it's expensive, it's better than wherever they were. So there's a lot of opportunity, and you know, we don't. We sometimes take it for granted.
Yeah.
Even though there is a premium to live here.
Well, you know, there's no guns in.
That's one of the main ones.
Yeah, you know,
healthcare.
Healthcare. Like, you get yourself down here in a nice, comfortable spot.
You won't go bankrupt if you break a leg or something.
And you can go bankrupt in the U.S. if you don't have insurance.
Yeah, it's a killer.
It's a killer. But financially a killer. And
both. You're hit both ways. Okay, you want to pull up one more thing?
Well, let's. We're going to talk. Is there any charts that anybody wants to see?
There's always something.
I'm going to put up weed being the biggie.
Okay.
It's still capped around 20 billion. Let's see here. So weed, new certainly 6-month lows. And I will say, though, you know what? Look at the Bollingers are flattening out, which means that we could be heading in for some kind of a change. But it's been down. You get these RSI numbers down into the 25 and 20 relative strength. So oversold. That's where a rally starts. Rallies don't start after big moves up. Well, they can, but I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for a bit of a change in direction, as we saw here. Like if you could, you know, feel comfortable that you could get a rally from 30 to 38, and let's say you buy it, at 28, 27, 26, and take it to 35, 36, not a bad move. Like the rate of drop will slow down, like we see with CanTrust. CanTrust, now it's moving a nickel at a time, right? But it's steadily down.
Okay, maybe one more.
Okay.
How about fire? Brock here in the chat has been
fire
asking for it.
Is he playing with fire?
I think so.
Is that fire? Okay. Because Got to be careful here.
FIRE.
And is that on CNX? No, just a minute. FIRE. Here we go. $1.10. Supreme. Yeah. Supreme Canada. Wow. So we saw, again, top left, bottom right. We saw a nice bottom in here and a great rally, but it got overbought very quickly. Corrected sideways, and then
Some decent volume.
big volume here, and today also very big volume. Maybe setting up for another bounce. I think we're getting close to a bounce, but
Dead cat bounce?
you know what? If it's a dead cat bounce, you know that cat ain't coming back to life, right?
Okay.
And the reason is because it's dead.
Dead. Dead. Just
It's
like
4
our time.
o'clock.
Dead just like the time. So that's our show. Thanks so much, everyone. This has been Ed Milewski. My name is Mark Latimer. We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.